Most men don't collapse in public. They collapse in silence, alone, in bed. There's a specific kind of pain that doesn't show up in medical scans, the kind that hides in your mornings, when you open your eyes and the weight hits you not because the day is hard, but because you don't feel strong enough to face it. You tell yourself you'll get up in 5 minutes, but that 5 turns into 15, then 30. You're rushing through a day you haven't even claimed, and it shows in how you avoid the mirror, in how your breath feels shallow, in how you forget who you used to be. You weren't always like this. There was a time you had rhythm, drive, a reason to wake up early, a reason to fight. But life has a way of wearing you down in invisible ways. You make one small compromise, then another, and soon, your mornings don't belong to you anymore. They belong to your excuses. You start to perform life instead of living it. You go through the motions. You smile when you're expected to. You nod when someone asks how you're doing. But deep down you know something's off. The discipline is gone. And without it, so is the clarity, the focus, the edge, the you that used to be dangerous, unstoppable, precise. People won't see this collapse from the outside. You still look okay. You're functioning. But on the inside, you're quietly crumbling. The worst part? You've gotten used to it. You've made peace with mediocrity, compromise a quiet negotiation with weakness, and every time you hit snooze, you're casting another silent vote for the man you don't want to become. This is how it begins, not with some dramatic breakdown, but with a slow erosion of standards, with mornings that feel heavier than they should, with promises you made to yourself and broke quietly, hoping no one noticed. But you noticed. That's the worst betrayal of all. You tell yourself you'll start next week, that when things calm down, you'll find your rhythm again. But you won't, because life won't calm down, and rhythm doesn't wait for conditions to improve. It starts when you decide fully, absolutely, that you've had enough. Rock bottom isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the stillness of a man waking up at 9:47 a.m. again, staring at the ceiling, knowing deep down, this isn't who I'm supposed to be. That moment, that quiet collapse isn't the end. It's the threshold. And tomorrow, whether the world knows it or not, I rise. If this feels like your story, you're not alone. Drop a few words below, not for me, but for every man who needs to see he's not the only one. The morning you refuse to be that man. Inspired by Epictetus, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. And it didn't feel powerful. It didn't feel heroic. It didn't even feel right. That first morning, when you finally decided to change, felt awkward, clumsy, like stepping into a life you didn't quite belong to yet. The alarm hit at 5:30, not because you were ready, but because you were done. Done with the heaviness, the shame, the quiet resignation that had crept into your days like rot. And for a moment, you hesitated. Your body screamed, "Stay." Your mind whispered, "What's the point?" But something else spoke louder. Not with words, with defiance. You swung your legs over the edge of the bed, sat in silence, and just that, just not going back to sleep, was your first win. No one saw it. There was no applause, no streak to post. Just the dull ache of a tired body and the unfamiliar quiet of a mind being forced to obey for the first time in months. You didn't know what to do next, but you knew one thing: You weren't going back. So you moved. Maybe it was just a walk, maybe 10 push-ups, or a cold splash of water to the face. It didn't matter. What mattered was this: you took control, not of your whole life, not of your career or finances or relationships, just the first 60 minutes of your day. And for the first time in a long time, you did something because you said so, no, because it felt good, or easy, or inspiring. You gave a command, and you obeyed. That was the beginning. Discipline doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with silence, with resistance, with that trembling moment when you realize how far you've drifted from yourself, and still, you choose to row back. You'll feel foolish at first. Getting up early when there's no meeting, putting on shoes with no destination, writing in a journal no one will read. But that's the cost of change. Epictetus said it plainly: if you want to improve, be content to look foolish. Because only those who are humble enough to begin again can ever become someone new. That first morning won't fix you, but it will break the pattern. It will tell the voice in your head, the one that's been running the show for too long, that it's no longer in charge. And here's the truth: your body will resist. Your mind will rationalize. The urge to go back to bed, to delay, to say tomorrow will be there. Every second. But now you know this, you can override it. Not by inspiration, by decision. The man you want to become isn't built in the spotlight. He's built here, in this quiet, almost invisible rebellion against everything you've tolerated from yourself. This is your first brick. It may look small, feel shaky, and seem unimpressive, but stack one tomorrow, and another the day after, and soon, you won't be rebuilding a morning routine. You'll be rebuilding yourself. And it all starts here, when no one's watching, when nothing feels right, when the only thing louder than your doubt is your decision to rise anyway. The Battle Before Sunrise. Inspired by Marcus Aurelius. You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you. Ovary. No one warns you about the war inside your head at 5 o'clock. It doesn't sound like gunfire or alarms. It doesn't feel like chaos. That would be easier to fight. Noth war is subtle, quiet. It comes dressed as comfort, as logic, as softness. It whispers, "Why are you doing this? Just one more hour. You're not behind. You deserve a break." It doesn't scream, it seduces. This is the real battlefield, the one no one sees. Not your job, not your inbox, not the market. This moment, between the first thought and the first action, between the urge to delay and the choice to move, you've already proven you can rise. You did it once. But now the high is gone. No more novelty, no more momentum to ride. Now it's just you and your mind, alone in the dark. And this is where most men lose. Not because they're lazy, not because they're weak, but because they believe the voice. They think that voice is them. But here's the truth. Your mind is a tool, not your master. And, like any tool, it reflects how it's been trained. If you've trained it with softness, it will fold. If you've trained it to seek ease, it will manufacture excuses. But if you train it with discipline, if you show it that you lead, not it begins to obey. Marcus Aurelius knew this. He faced his own morning resistance and wrote, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you. In other words, don't let the voice win by dramatizing the moment. Don't negotiate. Don't spiral. Just get up. And yet, it's never that simple, is it? Because the enemy doesn't just whisper, doubts it, speaks in your own voice. It uses your past against you. It reminds you of every time you started and stopped. Every time you got excited and then faded. It says, you'll just burn out again. And you feel it. That tight pull in your chest. The fog behind your eyes. The weight of memory. But here's what the voice forgets. You're not him anymore. You're not the man who needed the world to be perfect before he acted. You're not the version of yourself that waited for energy to make a move. You're the man who builds strength from stillness, who makes clarity out of silence, who rises not because it's easy, but because it's time. The hardest part is the first 5 minutes. Every morning. That's when the war is won or lost. If you can move before the reasons not to stack up, if you can breathe, plant your feet, and step forward while the noise still whispers, you've already won. You don't have to feel good. You don't have to believe in yourself yet. All you have to do is not retreat. And here's what no one tells you. Discipline isn't just a morning habit. It's a declaration. Every time you rise before your mind is ready, you're telling it, you don't run this. Every time you act without needing permission from your emotions, you rewire the very structure of who you are. This is the forge, the sacred hour. While the world sleeps and distractions are dormant, you are reclaiming territory in your mind, your spirit, your identity, and soon, the voice changes. It resists less. It watches you rise with less protest, because now it knows you are the one in command. The battle never disappears, but you stop losing. And every morning you step into that fight, you get sharper, cleaner, stronger, more focused, until one day, you realize something powerful. You no longer fight to wake up. You wake up ready to fight. Rebuilding a man from scratch. Inspired by Seneca, no man was ever wise by chance. It doesn't happen all at once. There is no grand transformation, no flash of lightning, no dramatic moment that says, you've arrived. What actually happens is far more ordinary and far more powerful. You wake up, you move, you do the thing, again, and again, and again. That's how the rebuild begins, not with fire, but with friction, with repetition, with a quiet kind of violence that breaks down the old you, one decision at a time. That's how discipline is formed, not through inspiration, but through structure, through rituals that feel so small. They seem meaningless until they compound. The world teaches you to chase peaks. It sells you on breakthroughs and big leaps. But wisdom, mastery, resilience, those are not found in the mountaintops. They are forged in the mornings. You don't skip. Each time, you keep your promise to yourself. You lay another brick, not a brick for others to admire. A brick that strengthens the foundation beneath your feet. You drink the water instead of the soda. Brick. You write in your journal, even when your mind is blank. Brick. You work out without a pump, without music, without energy. Brick. You sit in silence before checking your phone. Brick. You go to bed on Timonor because you're tired, but because you're becoming someone who respects the next morning. Brick. Individually. None of it feels impressive. No one claps when you make your bed at 5:40. No one celebrates you skipping the donut. And that's the point. Discipline isn't loud. It's not performative. It's not sexy. It's sacred. Every habit you build is a signal to your brain. This is who we are now. Not who we pretend to be. Not who we wish we could become. Who we are. And the more you show up, especially when it's inconvenient, the deeper the identity settles in. You are not chasing a routine. You are creating a rhythm. And rhythm is stronger than motivation. Rhythm shows up even when the fire burns low. Rhythm carries you when the noise returns. Rhythm is what separates those who fall apart from those who outlast. Seneca said it best. No man was ever wise by chance. That applies to discipline too. No man ever became strong, focused, grounded by accident. He became those things the same way a fortress is built, one intentional brick at a time. But let's be honest, there are mornings when everything in you will say, "What's the point? You're not seeing results. You're still the same." And that's when you must remember, discipline is not a feeling, it's a form of faith. Faith that these small, invisible acts are doing something inside you, rewiring thought patterns, burning away excuses, resurrecting integrity. It may not look like change yet, but it is. You are becoming a man who doesn't quit on himself. And in a world full of noise, that alone makes you rare. You won't feel epic every day. You won't feel proud. You won't even feel different most mornings. But that's not the metric. The metric is this: did you keep your word? If yes, brick. If no, zet. Lay it again tomorrow, but never abandon the build. Because here's the truth, you are always building something. Either a future you can stand on, or a future that will collapse under your own inconsistency, and you know what collapse feels like. You've been there. That's why now, this time, you lay every brick with intention. Not for applause, not for perfection, but because this structure, this quiet temple of self-respect is the only place your true life can be built. So stack the bricks. Keep stacking, even when it's boring, even when it's cold, even when no one is watching. Because one morning, without even realizing it, you'll step into the man you used to dream about becoming, and he won't feel like a stranger. He'll feel like home. When you face the man you became. Inspired by Epictetus, know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly. There's a moment quiet, simple, where the real work begins. Not in the gym, not in the kitchen, not in the planner filled with goals, but in the mirror. It doesn't lie. It doesn't flatter. It reflects. And when you've been rebuilding your life brick by brick, morning by morning, there comes a point where you stop just doing the work and start asking who you're becoming because of it. You look into the mirror and something shifts. Not in your face, but in your eyes. You don't see results yet. You don't see transformation, but you do see this: a man who is trying, and for a while, that's enough. But then the deeper question comes not, am I improving, but am I honest? Because you can go through the motions, you can post progress, you can track steps, reps, hours. But when it's just you and your reflection, all the metrics fade. What remains is something far simpler and far more brutal. Are you becoming someone you respect? That question is heavier than it seems, because it demands accountability without performance. It doesn't care how far you've come. It cares whether you're aligned, whether your actions and your identity are in sync, whether the man in the mirror is who you claim to be, or just a costumed version of your old self. And the mirror doesn't accept your excuses. It sees the corners you've cut, the compromises, the mornings you skipped because you felt like you'd earned it. It sees the way you sometimes wear discipline like armor, but not always like a code. But it also sees the change, the subtle defiance in your posture, the way your shoulders sit differently, now not slumped in guilt, but grounded in purpose. It sees a man who no longer looks away. Epictetus said, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." This isn't about clothes. It's not about appearances. It's about congruence, about becoming the kind of man who doesn't need to explain himself because every morning his life answers for him. You don't earn that by chasing perfection. You earn it by showing up with sincerity, by doing hard things not to impress anyone, but to honor the man you told yourself you'd become. And over time, something remarkable happens. You start to trust that reflection again, not because it's perfect, but because it's honest. You see the scars, and you see the strength. You see the mornings where you wanted to quit, but didn't. You no longer stare into the mirror trying to hype yourself up. You look at yourself the way a soldier looks at another before battle. A nod, a breath, a silent contract. Let's go again. Because you know this isn't a transformation you ever finish. It's one you prove every morning. The fire was never gone. Inspired by Marcus Aurelius, a fire feeds on obstacles. Always, at first, it's barely noticeable. A flicker, a whisper of something you thought you lost. It doesn't roar. It doesn't demand attention. But one morning, maybe a week into the process, maybe a month, you feel it. You rise, not with resistance, not dragging your body out of bed like dead weight. You rise with purpose, still tired, still sore, but clear. And that clarity isn't borrowed from a podcast or a quote. It's earned from the consistency you've been stacking in silence. This is the beginning of the return, not of energy, not of motivation, but of fire. The fire that once defined you, the one that burned behind your eyes in younger years before the failures, the betrayals, the burnout dulled your spirit. That fire is not dead. It was just buried beneath your compromises, suffocated by years of soft decisions and silent disappointments. But now, every morning you choose discipline, you feed it. Every hard rep, every early wake-up, every ignored excuse, each one is kindling. Each one adds fuel. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A fire feeds on obstacles." And now you understand what he meant. You don't need the world to get easier. You don't need a smoother path. You just need resistance, something to push against. Because that's what reignites you. Not comfort, but pressure. Not praise, but persistence. Your flame doesn't come back because life gets better. It comes back because you stopped running from the hard things, and instead, you met them, head on, again and again, quietly, without ceremony, and something changed. The voice in your head, the one that used to seduce you back into softness, still speaks, but you don't flinch. You don't argue. You override. Not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you know what's at stake. This isn't about discipline for discipline's sake. It's about reclaiming who you were before you gave up on yourself. You start to notice it in strange ways. You walk into rooms differently. You don't shrink anymore. You don't avoid eye contact. You speak less, but when you speak, your words carry weight. You stop over-explaining. You stop apologizing for wanting more, for needing silence, for protecting your energy. You are no longer asking life for permission to feel alive. You're taking it back. The flame is not wild, is controlled, measured, dangerous in the best way. It's not looking to burn others, it's burning away the weakness in you, the delay, the indecision, the story that said, "You'll never change." And you don't need to tell people you're different. They feel it. They feel it in your boundaries, in your focus, in your silence. And most importantly, you feel it in yourself. That dull ache in your chest, gone, replaced by heat, by movement, by the quiet confidence of a man who knows he's finally doing what he said he'd do. And no, it's not perfect. You still have setbacks, days where you miss, mornings that hit harder than expected, but even then you come back. Because now it's not about chasing a result. It's about protecting the rhythm that brought you back to life. The fire inside you may have dimmed, but it was never gone. It was waiting, waiting for you to show you were worthy of carrying it again. And now that it's back, you'll never let it go cold again. How strong men rise without noise. Inspired by Seneca, let silence be your goal for the most part. Say only what is necessary, and in few words. Note, most people think breakthroughs happen in big moments. Standing ovations, dramatic returns, viral success. But the truth, the real rise, is quiet. No spotlight, no sudden transformation, no moment where the crowd turns and gasps in admiration. That's not how real comebacks happen. The rise comes quietly, subtly, not with fireworks, but with rhythm, not in one triumphant leap, but in 1,000 small mornings where you did the work, especially when no one saw you. One day, you simply wake up and realize you no longer negotiate with the alarm clock. You no longer feel lost when the world is still. You no longer wait for motivation. You just move, with calm, with clarity, with a kind of stillness that's been forged, not found. It doesn't mean life is easier. The pressure is still there. But now, it doesn't crush you. You carry it. This is the rise they'll never understand. Because it's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's disciplined. There's no announcement. No speech. No, look at me now. There's just silence. Confidence. Presence. Not the kind you wear to impress. The kind that sits in your chest like a storm held steady. The kind that can walk into any room without needing attention because it already knows its value. You stopped explaining. You stopped seeking validation. You stopped measuring your worth by how quickly things changed. Instead, you trusted the process. You returned to the foundation. You rebuilt slowly, morning by morning, until discipline wasn't a task. It was your identity. You now wake up with intent. You walk with direction. You speak only when necessary. There's a shift in your posture. Your words are fewer, but sharper. People notice. They can't quite name it, but they feel it. The calm, the control, the steadiness. You've become a man they don't question, not because you force them to respect you, but because you respect yourself. And that respect was earned in silence. It was earned when you rose at 5 a.m. and trained while others slept. When you shut out noise and sat with your thoughts. When you said no to shortcuts. When you said yes to the hard path again and again. You no longer chase the fire. You carry it. You no longer hope for clarity. You create it, and in doing so, you've unlocked something very few ever reach. The quiet rise, the version of success that isn't broadcasted, but embodied. This isn't about being better than others. It's about being better than who you were. About standing in the stillness of your own power. About mastering your inner world so completely that the outer world can't shake you. You don't wake up to impress. You wake up to align. You wake up because you gave your word, and now your word means something again. Not to the world, but to you. There's no urge to shout, to prove, to boast. That noise belonged to the old version of you, the one who doubted, who waited, who needed the world to approve before taking action. But now, you understand, the most powerful man in the room is usually the quietest one. Not because he has nothing to say, but because he doesn't need to be heard to be felt. The quiet rise is not for those who need attention. It's for those who crave mastery. Mastery over mood, mastery over distraction, mastery over self. And when you live from that place, you move differently. People listen more closely. Your actions carry farther. Your discipline echoes longer. Because now, when you rise each morning, you're not chasing a feeling. You're protecting a rhythm. You're guarding a standard. You're honoring the man you promised yourself you'd become. No fanfare. No praise. Just execution. That's how real men rise. What happens when you choose discipline over emotion? There comes a moment when something inside you clicks. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, like a lock turning in a dark room. And in that stillness, you realize you don't need permission to be calm anymore. You don't need validation to walk with strength. You simply are. You no longer explain your silence. You no longer defend your peace. You no longer ask the world to respect your stillness, because now you understand that real power is silent. It doesn't posture. It doesn't flinch. It simply commands. Most people are waiting for life to be fair before they feel strong. But you're no longer one of them. You've learned that discipline isn't built in applause. It's built in repetition, in the quiet hours, in the moments when no one is watching. You've fought battles that left no bruises, but forged unshakable resolve. And now, you move differently. Not louder, not faster, just clearer, more grounded. You rise. Not to impress, but to lead yourself. You hold the linen not because it's easy, but because you've made a promise to the man you're becoming. The storms still come, but they no longer shake you. The world still throws noise, but you no longer need to answer it. You walk forward, not because you feel ready, but because readiness is no longer a requirement. This is your final command. Stay silent. Stay steady. Let your consistency do the talking. Let your life become the proof. And when the world asks where your strength comes from, you'll know. It came from mornings like this. And if this message sparked something in you, then know this: you're not alone. There are thousands of men out there tired of being overlooked, tired of chasing, tired of betraying their own strength just to feel accepted. Men reclaiming their mornings. Men building silently. By subscribing, you're not just upgrading your life, you're helping make this insight accessible to men who need it most. Men who were never taught to lead themselves. Men who are one disciplined morning away from a completely different life. This isn't just a channel, it's a movement, and you're a part of it. Drop a comment below. What part did you feel in your bones? Your voice might echo louder than you think. And if you know someone still stuck in survival mode, share this. Let this be the spark he never saw coming.